Peugeot's classy medium-range model has sharpened up its act. This second generation 508 aims to offer a fresh approach to D-segment motoring and does, offering an appealing combination of style and savoir-faire. Life's too short for boring car design, Minol?
Peugeot has never made a really fine-handling larger model, but it'll be clear within a few hundred yards that this one is rather different to its predecessors. The low-set i-Cockpit driving position and the wrist flick response of this little wheel gives it a kart-like feel, and it makes you want to explore the handling balance, which in our view, in this class you'd have to be in a BMW to better. Being front-driven, there's only so far that the French engineers could go with this 508 in that regard, but they've clearly spent a long time tuning the multi-link rear suspension for the ideal balance between supple damping and sharp cornering response, and it's really paid off. Being front-driven, there's only so far the French engineers could go with this 508 in that regard, but they've clearly spent a long time tuning the multi-link rear suspension for the ideal balance between supple damping and sharp cornering response, and it's really paid off, especially if you're in a variant fitted with adaptive damping. Now you'll get that feature as standard if you opt for a petrol variant like the one we're trying here, which features the brand's latest 1.6 litre PureTech engine, offered with either 180 or 225 horsepower. The lesser unit is capable of particularly impressive efficiency, 51.4 mpg on the combined cycle and 125 grams per kilometre of CO2. Of course, diesels do even better in that regard. The range kicks off with a 130 horsepower, 1.5 litre Blue HDI power plant, and that's the only one in the range that can be had with manual transmission. Most buyers, though, will want the smooth E88 Auto box as fitted to every other 508 model, including the 2 litre Blue HDI diesel, which puts out either 160 or 180 horsepower. You can talk to your dealer about a petrol-electric plug-in variant too. This second generation 508 opens up a fresh chapter in Peugeot design, and it's one that prioritises style over space. Now, to create this rather distinctive look, this car's 8 centimetres shorter and it's 6 centimetres lower than its predecessor, plus it's also narrower at the rear than at the front. Otherwise, the big news is that the saloon body style of previous Peugeot medium-range models has been abandoned in favour of a hatch body shape, although the brand wants us to call that a fastback. If the 508 formula appeals, you don't have to have this body shape. There's an alternative SW Estate version which looks equally avant-garde. Either way, there's a clear desire here from the designers to do something different, which we really like. As for the inside, well, it'd be disappointing if the extrovert exterior styling wasn't mirrored by equally interesting treatment of the cabin. And that's just what you get. Here again, you get a very different design to the kind of thing that you'd normally expect to find in this segment, with a quality of fit and finish which justifies Peugeot's premium pretensions. The main thing that you'll initially notice, though, is the so-called i-Cockpit ergonomic layout. That's Peugeot's term for interior design, which positions you so that you're looking at the instruments over the top of the steering wheel rather than viewing them through it. Now, a word about those instrument gauges. They represent another of this cabin's defining talking points. Conventional dials have been completely replaced by this fully configurable and customizable 12.3-inch colour screen. Just about everything else you'll need to know can be found on what looks like a tablet PC attached to the fascia, a multifunction colour touchscreen that grows from 8 to 10 inches in size beyond entry-level trim. So, time to take a look at what's served up in the rear. Once inside, it's actually reasonably spacious. Despite the swept-back roofline, headspace won't get too much of a premium unless you're of basketball-playing stature. The relative narrowness of the cabin won't help if you have to take 3 folk back here, but the low transmission tunnel makes dealing with that eventuality easier than it would be in some rivals. So let's finish with a look out back at boot space. Now this powered tailgate, which works with a wave of your foot beneath the bumper, is optional on most models, annoyingly so because this huge hatch is rather heavy. Once it raises, a 487 litre space is revealed. That's actually 14 litres more than was provided by the longer previous generation model. Pull these toggles behind the headrest to push everything forward. Do that and you'll find that the seats don't fold quite flat, but a very reasonable 1,537 litres of space is opened up. And in summary, well, not everyone will like a 508 and even fewer will be minded to buy one. But if it had more generic appeal, it wouldn't be the distinctive contender it is. This car makes its segment a more interesting place, just as big Peugeots once did. There's a sense of inherent desirability here that you just can't get from most of the other contenders in the class. If you like, it's the want one factor. And here, you might find that a very strong draw.